Welcome, everyone. It is 3:30 Eastern Time, and I will go ahead and kick off our May Cultivating Connections webinar. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining the Hunger, Nutrition, and Health Action Collaborative webinar. I'm Rachel Forensic, and I'm with the CDC Foundation. Wanted to let you know that the Zoom chat is open right now. Feel free to introduce yourself and your organization. And then during the panel discussion, we'll close the Zoom chat. Many of you asked for the chat to be open so you can share resources and information that might be of interest to others, which we'd like you to do. We'll open it up again at the end after the panel during the Q&A segment. Want to remind folks to please be nice and kind to each other, and don't post any political commentary or sell any products. At any time during the webinar, you can submit questions for the panel using the Q&A feature. I also feel like it's important to acknowledge that since our last webinar, we have seen an unprecedented attack on public health, and many important federal services have been cut or eliminated. We want to keep this space free from political conversation. However, there are important policy implications of these actions, and those are very important to discuss. We just ask you use your best judgment about the comments that you post. Okay, now we're going to launch a Zoom poll and find out what type of organization you are here representing today. Malcolm, if you'll launch that poll for us, we'll give you just about 20 seconds to fill that in. All right, if we can take that down. Awesome. Oh, here's our poll results. Lots of nonprofits joining, but always great to see some representation for various other sectors. Great, thanks so much. Really excited about today's webinar. Today, we're talking about supporting urban agriculture and regional food systems with experts from the Common Market Southeast, the Conservation Fund, and Urban Growers Collective. Urban agriculture plays a critical role in enhancing food security, promoting nutrition, localizing food systems, building community and social capital, and stewarding the environment. I'm excited to have with our guest today with us, and I know it's going to be a lively discussion. I'm sure that 25 minutes is definitely going to be insufficient. Let me introduce our panel. Erika Allen is a pioneer of equitable urban agriculture and regenerative agriculture. She is the founder and CEO of Urban Growers Collective in Chicago, Illinois. Erika is joined by her colleague, Brandon Love, Director of Development at Urban Growers Collective. Justin Nickelson is the Georgia Farms Fund Program Manager at the Conservation Fund. And Bill Green, who is the Executive Director of the Common Market Southeast. Welcome, everybody, and thank you so much for being here with us today. Let's jump in. The Farms Fund program was launched in 2021 by the Conservation Fund in Atlanta and expanded to Chicago in 2022. It brings together food production, shores up supply chains for small farmers, and creates an affordable path for new farmers to buy farmland. So Justin, welcome. And could you tell us a little bit about the Farms Fund and why it's important?
Okay, well, greetings, everyone. Thank you, Rachel. It's a pleasure to be here. And I think I may start with why it's important with identifying the challenge and then round out with who we are, identifying opportunity. So, around the U.S., we're understanding that we're losing our local farms and our farmland and farmers around major metropolitan areas to development pressure. pretty rapidly. I know here in Georgia, we've lost over 3,000 farms over the past 5 years. In Midwest, is larger numbers of 55% or more agricultural land being lost to development pressure. And understanding the average age of the U.S. farmer is between that 55 to 60-year range. So there is a drastic need for more farmland, a new next generation of farmers and farm businesses to really sustain our local food ecosystems. And at the same time, we're seeing an increase in demand for local food, right, from general consumers wanting to buy, eat locally, and support their small to mid-sized farmers. So, therein lies an opportunity. The Conservation Fund, Farms Fund, as you mentioned, Rachel, being launched in 2021, served as an innovative program to rebuild the local food system and create sustainable farm businesses by creating an affordable pathway for land ownership through our Buy, Support, Protect, Sell program. Where the Farms Fund actually steps in as an acquisition partner for a farm business, creating a 3 to 5 year lease to own contract for a farm business to now steward a larger parcel of land so they can scale their business operations up. At the same time, we offer very valuable support to those farm businesses, from farm infrastructure investments to coordinated business support. And towards the end of that 3 to 5 year contract, we partner with the local land trust to sell publicly funded conservation easements for the permanent protection of that farmland, effectively protecting that farmland as agricultural lands in perpetuity. And then additionally, we're able to now sell that underlining fee to the farmer, which is that agricultural use value, often at 35 to 60% of the land value to that farm business, really creating that patient pathway, right? I mean, we understand that it's very difficult to go in and get a land loan for $2 million, right? So, Farms Fund being able to step in and acquire that land on the front end is extremely beneficial. And then we're also able to have that deep discount, so to speak, with the agricultural land value. And from that fee, we're able to roll those proceeds right back into the program to now purchase more agricultural lands to do it all over again. So that's kind of a snapshot. Try to keep it in
Awesome.
hopefully a minute and a half or less.
Awesome, Justin. What a fantastic model. Can't wait to hear more of how this has been operationalized on the ground. So Erika and Brandon, tell us about Urban Growers Collective and what drew you to want to join with the Farms Fund program.
Definitely. Thank you, Rachel. I'll share a little bit about what Urban Growers Collective does, and then I'll pass it off to Erika for how we work together with the Conservation Fund. And as you mentioned, Rachel, for Urban Growers Collective, or UGC, we're based in Chicago, Illinois, and Justin laid this out really great, where we're thinking about all these challenges that we face within agriculture, but especially within urban agriculture around land access, developing that next generation of farmers, and then all of the demand side of things, whether you're a consumer, an eater, or you're working within the procurement supply chain. And I think for a lot of folks, and maybe folks within the webinar as well, folks may not be seeing all of those challenges directly, but we know that our work within the food system is all tied within all of the ways that those show up. So for Urban Growers Collective, the way that we work is we really use urban agriculture as our tool and method to address inequities that exist across the food system. And some of those might look like advancing our community's health, whether that's through eating and nutritionally dense and diverse foods, or thinking about our farms and the built environments that impact our communities. We also look at economic development, creating pathways for workforce development and for folks to be engaged within the food system, have career opportunities, and then also healing and creativity within our work. For UGC, what that looks like is we actually operate 50 acres of farmland across the Chicagoland area. And on those 10 sites, we have 8 in the city of Chicago, where we have about 11 acres. And last year we produced over 21,000 pounds of produce across our sites. We also have the Green ERA campus, which is a anaerobic digester that is diverting food waste from landfills to create renewable energy through methane, natural gas. And then what we're really excited about, which is the nutrient-rich compost that we can use in our farms for production. And then finally, the 30-acre Z farm that is a part of the Working Farms program. And by looking at all of those different aspects of the growing food, as well as the development of market pathways where we're getting it out to communities at an affordable, accessible rate, but then also compensating farmers, we're able to innovate on what our job training education programs look like to train that next generation of farmers in all the different pitfalls and challenges that farmers might face, and then also inform and influence different policy research and practices within the field. And I think I'll pass it off to you, Erika, now to share a little bit about what that looks like as we're working through the Working Farms Fund.
Thank you, Brandon. I am just so honored to just be part of this conversation and to be speaking in between Conservation Fund, who is allowing us, gave us the bandwidth as a small not-for-profit to actually do the land transaction. We would not have had the bandwidth to do that. And within our mission, to be able to continue to increase food access, to create pathways for the next generation, the lineage that we're part of, which started with Growing Power and our Growing Power office in Chicago. And then now with Urban Growers Collective, we know it takes, so 25 years of me specifically doing this work and longer, if I include my upbringing, and knowing that we have a staff that has developed and matured within our work and how long it really takes to not only nurture the skill sets and the passion around sticking with agriculture, but also innovating around some of the pitfalls that have already been mentioned, some of the public health issues, wealth disparities, access to capital. Farms are successful because they're on land. Even if it's vertical farming or farming in a building, we need assets to do this. And it is very difficult to attain those assets if you don't already have a wealth stake or somebody who's sponsoring you. So to have that barrier removed, to work with Conservation Fund, who identified land that was in our county, that was close to our existing assets or projects, and that would be accessible and still mission aligned within a community that also looks very much like the communities we work in within more densely populated city areas where our farms are located, was exactly what we needed. And then because Common Market is now in the Great Lakes, we have a partner who's mission aligned that can help us distribute logistically the produce, that we are really focused with our work on increasing the supply and doing it within the context of the healing work, the recovery from just historic inequities, which is very real and continues to be a challenge. Just disproportionate health outcomes, disproportionate access to capital, and also just information, just knowing, how to grow food in a variety of scales. So very much, in alignment and needed both of these entities to be active within our area of practice to be able to scale up.
Awesome, fantastic. Let's turn to the Common Market Southeast. Bill, the Common Market Southeast connects urban communities with local food from family farms. Tell us a little bit about what were some of the conditions that you were trying to solve for that drew you to want to work with the Conservation Fund on the Farms Fund, and anything else you'd like us to know about Common Market Southeast.
Sure, Rachel, thanks for having me today. There's 3 things that we know that farmers need, and my co-panelists have spoken to that thus far in their comments. And they need access to markets, labor, and capital. And the Common Market was started in 2008 because our co-founders, Heidi and Tatiana, found that there were farmers that were small and mid-size in scale who lacked access to wholesale markets, particularly institutions. And at the same time, there are all these urban communities that lack access to fresh local food. And so that was how the Common Market was started. The USDA has recently shared that 92% of farms are considered small and mid-size. So when we consider the sustainability of our local food systems over the long haul, we know that supporting these smaller farms is going to be vital to our ability to continue to feed ourselves moving forward. We started working with smaller farms in the Southeast because there was this huge disparity between the really, really large farms, most corporate farms, and then you have these very small farms at the same time. And we started working with a few farms that were at the time urban farms that were growing on 2 to 3 acres. And so the economies of scale weren't there. It was very difficult to get them in the wholesale markets. But then the Conservation Fund began their Working Farms Fund. And so multiples of those farms, there are 4 different farms now that we're working with that are Working Fund farms that now have gone from growing on 2 to 3 acres to growing on 40 acres, 100 acres, having access to up to 200 acres. And it's been a complete game changer in terms of the food that is now available in Metro Atlanta because of these farms and where they're located. So it has been a tremendous opportunity to build there. And the other thing that has done, the common market works primarily through institutions. As I mentioned, we sell to a number of hospitals, universities, corporate cafeterias, K through 12 schools, early care centers, and things like that. And we work on what we call a forward commitment process. So we negotiate forward commitments, seasonal forward commitments with these institutions in advance, so that these farmers have a ready market for them. The pricing has already been negotiated. The institutions already know what product they're getting, and so it's really a win-win for both sides. The federal contracts that we participated in, the Local Food Purchase Assistance Cooperative Agreement, the LFPA, and the Local Food for Schools program, we've been distributors in both programs, and that's been a wonderful opportunity for these farmers to scale up as well. But it's really been that partnership with the Conservation Fund and being able to have more food to sell that is opening the eyes of institutions that, hey, I can buy local, I can buy from small to mid-sized farms. And then also it is creating this new revenue stream. We talked about the average age of the farmer being 58 years old, and we need to attract a new generation of farmers. And one of the ways we're going to do that is by creating these meaningful financial pathways for them. So that's where the common market sits. In terms of access to capital, we also offer 0 interest loans to farmers in our network. That those loans are extinguished just by delivering on a crop plan. But it allows these farmers to invest in their infrastructure, to get input that they need in order to create a crop and bring it to market, get the labor and packaging and everything else that they need. So that's how we're working to build a more sustainable and equitable local food system in the 4 geographies where we operate, including in Chicago. And I know Jamie's on, who's our man in Chicago.
Awesome. I love how you've talked about how this has been able to be scaled, and how many challenges this type of partnership is really addressing. It's not just addressing one challenge in the food system, but so many. So Erika and Brandon, let me turn to you and ask you, we know that hunger is a symptom of deeper systemic inequalities. How do partnerships like this one help drive long-term sustainable changes for our food system?
I will start on this one and pass it over to Brandon. You know, one of the things that, that we've been discussing is defining what hunger is. You know, hunger is more than just literally having no food to eat. It's about really addressing the root causes as to why we don't all have access to healthy, nutritionally dense, culturally aligned foods. So our work has been, I think collectively is just recreating and changing the way that food is distributed, how it's grown, and by who and how. I say that in kind of in these apolitical terms, but there really is a challenge when you are creating a food system where the folks who are growing the food are paid living wages, where that dollar can recirculate back in the community. We're repairing those things along with making sure that the most vulnerable members of our communities have access to food. There's been some amazing programmatic work I can speak of in Illinois and Chicago Illinois Eats is one of the examples. And this came through the LFPA program that I know everybody who has been participating has been impacted by some of the changes. But for us, it really created an opportunity, a subsidy, if you will, for us to be small growers, some of the growers that everybody is working with and supporting to be able to directly deliver food to food pantries at a retail rate, so that it was economical to do that. It is still, because we're still in the program, to be able to do that as opposed to direct markets. And just even that increase in having a guaranteed market then really incentivizes smaller growers to look at scaling up, to look at, okay, let me think about how I can expand on maybe I'm going to lease another 10 acres, and maybe I'm going to be able to provide more availability. So for me, it's an access issue. It's just like having enough local food, having multiple ways that people are empowered to grow their own food, and also being realistic about the economic realities of the kind of food that we're all talking about being affordable and also being economically viable as a business. And I think having all of those pieces addressed moves us past the root causes of why we even have something in a country that has a lot of food waste, because we're recirculating food waste with a digester, and there's a tremendous amount of food that's not edible, and much of it that does not get consumed that should be in our country. And so finding ways to shift those narratives and also create economic pathways is incredibly important.
Awesome. Brandon, anything to add?
Yeah, I think I'll just emphasize some of what Erika was sharing, that Urban Growers Collective, we in our own programs and on our operations, we do a lot, as does the Working Farms Fund at Conservation Fund, as does the Common Market. But even though we're all each doing so much, we can't do it all, even among our partnership. And the work that we're doing in these partnerships is really giving us that capacity to do what we do really well, and to continue doing that, so we can begin to scale that model around the shared vision, where we have an understanding that, yes, land is going to be a constant challenge for folks in food and farm industry. And through Justin's work, the Working Farms Fund, I don't have to fully understand all of the things that go into a real estate transaction in order to make that happen, so that we can begin growing. Procurement operations and those logistics are always going to be a challenge, especially as we think about denser urban areas where, as we saw during COVID, there were lots of challenges and disruptions to that. And through our work with the Common Market and other partners, we're able to address some of those things without losing sight of that shared vision of what we want the food system to do to address these overlapping needs that come up because of these systems of inequity.
Awesome. Justin, let me move to you also and have you say a little bit. Do you have any advice for folks who are on the call that are excited about what you've done in Atlanta and Chicago and want to improve food systems in their own region?
Well, I think I may just emphasize the level of partnership that we're identifying here, right? We're here, Bill Green and Common Market, talking about just that distribution side, and more importantly, the values alignment that they share with institutions and producers, right? You talk about game changers, the idea of a forward commitment to a farm business for a wholesale product really sets that farmer up through that season, so that they could not only provide for that outlet, but now forecast for, their whole 10, 30 acre rotation, right? Those types of values aligned partnerships are just unbelievably important for a farm business to operate at this scale. And also, on the flip side, the conservation funding. We can't really do what we do without actual conservation funding program. Some states are a bit further along in that process than others, but I would urge anyone interested to look into your local state conservation programs and conservation funding that is accessible to develop easements and agricultural easements. On the federal level, we understand, there are programs that are worth sounding to show their importance, and we have to continue to do that as well. and also continuing to support your local farm business. If you have a farmer close to you that is doing great work, pour into that farmer, continue to purchase, whether you're going directly to the farm or to the farmer's market. Every little bit counts, and it truly does take that collaborative effort to make something like this work.
Awesome. I'm embarrassed to say this is the first year that I've done a CSA, but I'm super excited about it. Love it. Love that concept. Bill, we have a question that came in from the audience I wanted to throw your way if you're up for it. Is the common market doing any forward contracts with farms for use in emergency food systems or community food organizations?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of our forward contracting for communities has been government funded. It's, the LFPA program that Erika and I both spoke about. In Georgia, all of that product that we are working with farmers in advance and crop planting with them in advance are going to the 8 food banks in Georgia and Tennessee to support the various pantries there. But by and large, the forward commitment program is our attempt to find a bridge from government programs to the institutions. We know that the big 3 food service management companies do, by and large, all of the food service for cafeterias across the country. Tremendous buying power in universities, K through 12 schools, and corporate cafeterias, and other institutions like that. And that's where we're seeking partnership, because we're looking for these institutions who have made representations to their stakeholders to say we are lifting up certain values, whether it be regenerative growing, organic growing, supporting local farms, supporting the historically underrepresented farms. These are the values that they come to the common market for, because that's the farmers that we represent. And so it's as I mentioned before, it is a win-win situation for these companies and these farmers. We're the conduit between both. We will continue to support community organizations and those working in areas where there is an appreciable lack of local food access or just nutritious food access. So we'll always do that. But we also don't want to put those organizations in a situation where they are making commitments to farms beyond what they're able to do, because then that does a disservice to those farms as well. So we work in both spaces, and we'll continue to serve community in both respects. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yes, great. I was right. The 25 minutes went by super fast, and our time is we have 3 minutes left, and I can't even go through our any more final questions. So let me just say, I'm so grateful to have had all of you on this call today. Again, we could have used much more time. I would love for the audience, if you're willing, to please put into the chat, is there anything that you're going to do this week because of what you learned today? So if you'll put that in for us, that would be fantastic. I want to thank everyone who submitted questions ahead of time and during the webinar. The Zoom chat is open now. And please, again, tell us any takeaways. And if any of you are reaching out because you want to connect with folks on this webinar, we can make sure we can make that connection. We won't put your emails into the chat, but we'll make those connections, because I know folks want to learn more. Again, I can't thank you all enough, Erika, Brandon, Justin, Bill, for your time, for everything you're doing in your communities, how important it is. You really emphasize how important it is. We tend to our local food system, and why that is so important and is going to continue to be so important as time goes on, as our climate changes, you name it. So really fantastic, important work you all are doing. In our last just 30 seconds, I want to remind folks to join us next month, June 18th at this same time. And you can register for that webinar at impacthunger.org. And a survey will pop up at the end of this meeting, and just want you to take a moment, if you would, and tell us about your experience today, what you enjoyed, and if there are areas that you want to learn more about. So in the last really seconds I have, again, thank you so much, Brandon, Justin, Erika, Bill. Appreciate it, and look forward to continuing to hear about the great stuff that's happening in Chicago, Atlanta, and beyond. So thanks, everyone, and hope you have a fantastic rest of the week. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you all.